Hi everyone, I'm Yong King Bear. So I'm currently creating a playlist for the volunteers in essaycommunity.org, a website rebuild team to understand the basics of Drupal migration and some of the lessons that I have learned when I've written and performed the Drupal migration. So this guide is mainly for JSON to Drupal 11, but it probably applies for any migration as well. Some of the things that I will cover today is the key terminology for Drupal migration, and to understand like what is content types, fields, and YAML, the UI and the CLI approaches, and important lessons that I learned from doing hands-on with migration work, and some of the recommended resources and tool I use. Content type is the bread and butter of Drupal CMS. This is where our data will be migrated. So think of content type like an object or in object-oriented programming in computer science view. So content types are the foundation of how Drupal organizes and stores information. And under the content types, we actually have field. So like your object-oriented programming inside your object, you have like the attributes or the information about the class or the object. For example, in Drupal, we have you can add some field which has the attribute of text such as like description, summary, or you can add some data type like in numbers like your phone number, or you can even add data types like email as well. And there's some how to say some function that you can put it as a required or optional field. And there are also some validation rule in there, but it's not so important as long as you understand like fields is the attributes of your content type. Okay, so in Drupal, there are two ways to work with Drupal. The first way, probably much easier way if you don't have enough experience with using the terminal to run your codes, then UI is an useful way to run the Drupal migration. And yeah, so UI is actually stands for user interface, and CLI it stands for command line interface. I learned about this short form when I was doing Drupal. Yeah, I'm pretty new in computer science field. So my approach is I will try to show both methods whenever possible. My preference is still the CLI because it felt quicker for me, but both work well. So you will be dealing with YAML files a lot when you want to run your migration. So the migration are written in a YAML file. So you'll be how to say constantly editing and running your YAML file until you finish all your migration. So the first lesson that I learned when I've migrating the data for the essay community, the first thing will be do not over dependent or over rely on AI. I initially in the beginning because I do not know on how to write a YAML file for migration. So I trust like AI will be my teacher and my helper to help me write the whole YAML for me. But it is a terrible mistake because after writing I asked like ChatGPT to write the whole YAML for me, and after I run it, I don't even know where is the error, where to start correcting the error. So, how to say? Yeah. So the problem is even like the JSON is quite clear on the structure, and even with the content type are written quite specifically, and prompt engineering wasn't an issue. I don't have issue with prompt engineering. So it's the problem with the large language model on market are not well trained on Drupal, any knowledge about Drupal. So yeah, do not over rely on AI. So what to do then if you can't use AI to learn about Drupal migration. My recommendation is these two websites. I mean, probably the first website is the most useful for me, which is the 31 Days of Drupal Migration. Yeah, this was like my breakthrough on how I understand migration, how to write migration YAML, how to perform migration through this website. And in the website, it also mentioned about understanding the process plugins. Yes, I also depend a lot on the official Drupal documentation on the Migrate API, especially understanding about the process plugin. So these two resources are quite enough to get you started on how to write a YAML file for the Drupal migration. So second lesson is start iterating one field by one. So again, my mistake was asking the AI to write the whole YAML file rather than testing one tiny field first and see if it works, then then continue from there. So that time I was confused of like what went wrong. Was it in the first part of the source field, or whether it's in the process, or whether it's in the destination? I am so confused. So it is quite useful to start small by just migrating just one simple field, like probably the organization name, or maybe like the description or something that is just like from one text data to another text data. And from there, you probably start to build your confidence on like migrating the data. Then you can start migrating some more complicated fields like open hours, address, and even paragraph. Yeah. So best approach is always start by one field and start incremental the field for migration. And the third thing will be it's useful to use MySQL Workbench. Initially, I thought I've installed something very, I mean, how to say, something redundant, but it's not. It's actually extremely helpful for me. So why I think MySQL Workbench is helpful is the first thing, if before you doing the migration, you can try to run some like how to say describe the field to understand like the table of the field that you are going to migrate to. For for example, like for HT, I mean how to say links type of field, it will have an URI for you to migrate the how to say the website URL, or the title subfield is for you to like put the names of how to say the text name of the links, sort of like that. So before migrating, try to understand MySQL Workbench is useful to understand the structure or the table of the field, especially complex field. And after you run the migration, you can simply run like select star from the field to check whether the migration is executed successfully. So yeah, so the key takeaways is from this slide I mentioned about the content types and the fields and the YAML. And I also mentioned about we'll be looking into both the UI and CLI, and you can pick which works best for you. And most importantly, do not rely on AI too much. Try to read some guides and documentation that will save you a lot of time. And again, start small. Do not be too lazy and greedy to just run everything once, all at once. And finally, use MySQL Workbench to understand the, how to say, the tables, and also verify whether your migration is successful. This is a long presentation, but thank you for your patience, and I will see you in the next video.